Welcome to day 2. Today we're going to be looking at songwriting block number 2, having lots of ideas but no songs. There is nothing worse than coming up with a cool idea for a song but quickly getting stuck not knowing how to turn it into something more. If this sounds familiar, then keep listening. If you completed yesterday's practice, you should currently have 5 different song ideas or motifs to work with. Today, I'm going to show you how you can develop each of these motifs into an entire verse or chorus section. Exciting, huh? Knowing how to quickly develop a new idea like this will enable you to have more productive songwriting sessions that lead to more songs. Before we get started, I want you to decide on your favorite motif from yesterday, and we're going to develop that one in this lesson. If you'd like to develop your other motifs, you can definitely do that too. It'll just require a little more practice time. Let's jump in. The first step in writing your song section is to come up with a chord progression that fits nicely under your motif. We're going to be looking at how to snazzy up chord progressions in tomorrow's lesson, but for now, something really basic is going to do nicely. The first thing to do is to figure out what chords we can use. To find the chords, start by writing out the notes in your key. As an example, I'm going to be working on this motif from yesterday. La 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 la. This motif is in the key of C major, so that means it has the notes C, D, E, F, G, A, B. So I'll write those down on a piece of paper. Next, to find all the chords in the key of C, I simply apply this formula. Major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. So in the key of C, that gives me C major, D minor, E minor, F major, G major, A minor, and B diminished. Make sense? These are all the chords in the key of C, which means these chords are the most likely to sound good underneath my motif. Now, if my key had been a minor key as opposed to a major key, I would use a different formula. The formula for minor keys is minor, diminished, major, minor, minor, major, major. Pause this lesson now and take a moment to apply the relevant formula to your chosen key. You'll want to write this down on a piece of paper so you've got it in front of you for the next part. Those formulas once again are for major keys, major, minor, minor, major, major, minor, diminished. And for minor keys, minor, diminished, major, minor, minor, major, major. You'll find both of these formulas in your workbook for easy reference. Pause this lesson now. Now you have all your chords written out. The next step is to write a 4-bar progression using these chords. A good place to start is the 1 chord. In my case, that's C major. So underneath my motif, that sounds like this. That sounds pretty nice. So that's going to be the first chord in my progression. But where should I go next? Well, I can go to any of the other chords in my key. For example, I could go from C to A minor. That sounds pretty nice. Or I could go from C to F. That sounds pretty good too. I think I'll go with that one. Then where am I going to go? So I've got C to F. Well, then I could go maybe up to G and then back to C. Let's see how that sounds. Just a little tip here, if you're not very good at playing the chord voicings, which I'm not, you can just play the bass notes at this stage. This is what I often do when I'm trying to work out a chord progression. So that would sound like this. C, F, G, C. That's much easier to play and it works just as well. This progression is pretty good, but I want to try out some other ideas. What if instead of G, I go back to the C chord? And then maybe I can try A minor. I'm also going to try playing this F in a lower register. So I have been playing it here, but I want to play it down here. Okay. C, F, C, A minor. Okay, I liked going back to the C, but I'm not 100% sure about that A minor. So what if I try a G in bar 4 instead? That sounds pretty good to me. See how this is literally just a process of trying chords out and seeing how they sound. Pause this lesson now and spend the next 5 minutes figuring out a 4-bar chord progression to go underneath your motif. Repeat this exercise with any of the other motifs that you'd like to develop. Now you have a motif and a basic chord progression down, you're well on your way to writing your song. The next step in our process is to write a melody. Right now, you have a single motif that repeats over each chord, and sometimes that's all you need, but sometimes we want a little bit more variation in our song. So we'll turn that motif into a melody, and that's what we're about to do now. Melody writing, and songwriting in general, is all about finding this perfect balance between repetition and variation. Right now we have loads of repetition, and we could probably use some variation. So what we need is a second motif that complements the one we already have. The best way to do this is to not overthink it. Sing or play your motif over the top of your first chord and then improvise something different over the next one and just see what comes out. Here's my example. I'm going to sing this because it's easier for me to improvise with vocals. That's kind of nice. Kind of like that. Da, 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 da. I think that'll do. So my first motif is da, 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 and my second motif is da, da, da. The reason we sing or play our first motif first is because we want whatever we come up with next to go with that first idea. So this is the best way I've found to do this. Now the same rules apply to our second motif. Keep it simple, short, and rhythmic. Now in a moment, I'm going to ask you to try this yourself, but I want you to spend no more than 5 minutes on it. Once you find something you like, record it on your phone or computer. You might even come up with more than one idea you like, and if that's the case, then record those ideas too. Pause this lesson now. How did you go? Did you come up with a second motif idea? Hopefully by now you have 2 motifs that go together. The next step is figuring out what the best combination is to create your melody. So far we've just been playing our first motif, let's call this A, 4 times over the top of our chords. So for me, that would be da 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 da. Let's call that pattern A, 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 A. We can call our second motif B. So for me, that's the one that goes da da da. So let's try a different combination. Let's try A, B, A, A. So for me, that'll sound like this. Da 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 da. See how that immediately sounds a little bit more interesting than what we first had? What if we try A, B, A, B? Da 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 da. That's pretty nice too. Or we could go really out there and start our melody on the B motif. Let's try B, A, B, A. Da 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 da. Try this out yourself. It can be a really fun way of inspiring a much more interesting melody that's built off your first motif. Try as many different combinations of A and B as possible and see which one you like best. Just a quick note before you go, if you find this exercise inspires different melodic ideas outside of your A and B motifs, then that's great. There's no rules saying you have to stick to your first ideas. My only advice is when you get something you like, record it. That's it for today's lesson. Once you've completed your practice, you will have written the chords and melody for a complete song section. That's pretty awesome considering you're only on day 2. Tomorrow, we're going to take the basic chord progression you wrote today and make it much more exciting with one simple trick. I'll see you then.